Hi guys, it's Mike here. I have a special guest for today's podcast, an interview, Sean Finlay. Do you want to introduce yourself, man?
Yeah, I'm Sean. I'm 31. I have to think about that for a
Think about
second.
it, yeah.
I'm a graphic designer specializing in websites and branding and everything in between. Um, I recently went freelance unofficially September last year, where it was kind of I had a baby then, so it was kind of wasn't really doing a lot of work. But so I went full-time freelance officially in January this year. So it's been a big learning curve. And yeah, that's it. It's been a bit of a whirlwind of a year. So
Yeah.
how long are we working together now? Like maybe, I don't know,
I don't know, a
four
couple
months,
of
is it?
months.
Is it?
Yeah, maybe is it that
Yeah.
long? Maybe so.
I've no idea, to be honest.
Yeah, it's same. No, it's been a journey so far for sure. But where are you from again?
I'm from a place called Kentstown. So it's like besides Slane, people might know the Slane concert in Ireland. It's in County Meath, so it's like we don't like to refer to ourselves as being north of Dublin, but that's where most people will know.
That's the reality.
So
Yeah.
yeah. There's a bit of a rivalry between the two counties, but yeah. So basically, done graphic design, done visual communications in college in Waterford. From there, moved to Canada, kind of just up up sticks and moved with my girlfriend Nisha, and we lived in Canada for two 2.5 years, I think. So we lived in Toronto, and then we moved to Vancouver.
Well,
Then we ran out of money, so we moved home, and that's when I got my first kind of proper. Well, no, I did graphic design jobs in Canada, but they were more kind of internships and stuff like that. And I worked in a print house, which I'd say I deliberately wanted to work in both sides of the design industry, print and web, before I kind of specialized.
mm,
Um, so I worked in a print shop in Vancouver and very quickly realized that I wasn't the biggest fan of print. I like print, but not on my day to day business. So got back to moved home and got a job with Together Digital, which are one of Ireland's leading digital agencies. Like they specialize in websites mostly, but they do digital marketing as well. Um, so I worked there for nearly 3 years, and actually recently enough, we had a kind of a reunion with everyone. So it was cool. I still get on really well with the owner Ronan there. So that's really where I kind of cut my teeth. Like I learned it's only when you start learning things you realize how little you actually knew beforehand. When you're like, oh, I'm actually in an okay place, and then you're like, oh, I know nothing. So yeah, that was a great experience. That really opened up a lot of doors for me. Um, and then in 2019, me and Nish were thinking about like getting a mortgage and doing the whole settling down house thing, and we went into the bank and just were like, nah, it's not for us. So we packed our bags. We done the logical thing, packed our bags and moved to Australia. We moved to Melbourne for just 2.5 years, 3 years.
mm.
We're home. We're home in mid 2022. And then Shay, our son, was born in November 2022. So it was yeah, those are kind of a wild few years. We're home a couple of years now, so we're nice and settled. I think we're more ready for the kind of settling down mortgage kind of whole shebang now than we were
Yeah.
what 4 or 5 years ago. Um, so yeah, that's it. We kind of yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I went to Australia and I got a job in a branding agency. Kind of, I was lucky enough to have all these kind of jobs lined up before I went. So say before I moved home from Vancouver, I had contacted Ronan uh, and actually anyone watching this who might be kind of starting out in their career, don't limit yourself to only applying to jobs that have postings up on LinkedIn or Indeed or whatever. If you like the look of a place or you'd like to work somewhere, but they're not like advertising any jobs, still email them and tell them like, oh, I really like your agency or whatever you're applying for. Um, if there's anything ever coming up, let me know or whatever like that. Because that's how I've got probably about 90% of my jobs haven't been advertised. It's just been like emailing the owner, doing a little bit of research, emailing the owner, telling them why you like it. Because straight away they're like, it's a big compliment for someone to be
Yeah.
reaching out and be like, I want to work for you. So immediately you're after skipping the pile of people just applying to um, LinkedIn posts or whatever. So yeah, that's a good tip. I think that's
Wow.
definitely served me really well. Um, so yeah, I did that. Got a job in a branding agency, which was coincidentally run by a guy from Dublin in Melbourne. He's living over there like 25 years plus. And then from there, yeah, COVID happened. I think uh, every kind of life story is going to involve a big chunk with
Yep.
COVID, isn't it? But not to bore everyone, but it's basically the work dried up, and we were in Australia. So we got there like 6 weeks before all that happened. So there was a few lean months with me and Niche, but it was looking back on it now, like it was actually great for want of a better terms. Like we made the best out of a bad situation,
Yeah.
and we had a lot of fun together. We had no money, but we kind of made us realize like what actually. I know it's kind of cheesy to say, but what actually is important.
Mm.
Money is obviously important, but it's not the. I don't know. It's not the source of happiness. If that again, not to sound cheesy, but
No, no.
so yeah, a few lean years. But then the last year in Australia was great. Found out Nisha was pregnant and knew we wanted to come home. So just to be around family and best decision we've ever made.
Wow.
And then yeah, kind of just I kept working. I got a new job for one of Australia's leading digital marketing agencies called Megaphone, and they were they were like I think I before I joined there was like six. No, sorry, there's probably a bit more than that, maybe 10, 15 people. And then they started expanding, and like the day I started there was maybe 8 people hired as well. Like, so when I joined, there was maybe 50 people, but by the time I left, I think it hit like 120. Yeah, the company was expanding so quickly. So I had a great few years there and got on really well with everyone. Some of them still really close friends with today, and actually lucky enough to a lot of my work kind of now my freelance work comes from people I made friends with in those couple of years. Um, kept working for them when I moved home for a few months, and then just kind of life happened, and suddenly I found myself being a freelancer because it was more
Mm.
financially it made more sense, but more importantly, time management wise, it made more sense. Where you have a young kid in the house or a young baby in the house, time is of the essence. So
Mm.
I found myself with more time than I've ever had, and yeah, the client work kind of never stopped. Touch wood here now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm at the point now where I could probably hire someone or outsource kind of stuff, but me and you chatted about that. It's in the works.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm still very not new to all this as well, so I'm winging it to a certain extent. It's going well so far,
Yeah.
but
Look, to be honest, I've seen companies doing hundreds of thousands and even millions a month and they're winging it. Like genuinely, it's insane
yeah,
how like even corporate companies, even to that extent, the systems are old, everything's outdated, and they're making billions. It's insane the world we live in now, especially with the internet. But back to the move back from Australia, did the pregnancy trigger that move for you to come back home?
oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Just to be around
We
family and
we
stuff.
kind of, yeah, it's because it was a different lifestyle over there. Like, and we were living in an apartment. Like, I don't even know square footage, but like you could you could roll a ping pong ball from one end to the other of it. And so it was but it was great. It was great. It was two of the best years of our lives. Just kind of as opposed to the alternative was settling down when you're not ready and then
Mm.
getting into the bank and getting a mortgage. So just for us, it was a great call. And yeah, then we found out Nisha was pregnant in I think it was March, April of 22, and we kind of knew instantly we wanted to be home because we've two sets of grandparents, and
Yeah.
Shay has four aunties, yeah, and then
Mm.
uncles as well. Um, so yeah, and as I said, like best decision we've ever made. Like I just can't picture ourselves still being over there in that tiny
Really?
apartment,
Wow.
million miles away. Yeah, but
However bad some problems may be in Ireland, it's still better to be home. We've debated that a lot as
oh,
well.
100%. Like I kind of struggle with this quite a lot at the start. Like it took me a solid year of being home to actually kind of settle in or actually feel at home in the sense of like so we got on really well in Australia and we made lots of really lifelong friends and yeah, you do then adapt to being your home. And then
Mm.
when we come home, I found that it's kind of I can be a little bit of a pessimist at times. Like I really have to deliberately stop myself and think before like I can my first reaction can be just like oh, no, oh, this is shit or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas like I have to as I've got older, I've kind of tried to work on my mindset and
Mm.
be a bit more calculated in how I think. So yeah, it took me a full year to stop kind of comparing things because
Yeah.
they're different and things are good for different reasons and
Mm.
things are shit for different reasons. And
Mm.
yeah, it's a definitely thing. We've definitely problems here in Ireland, but it's kind of it's about how you are willing to deal with the problems or you're willing to I don't know, I can't remember. I heard it quote a really good quote somewhere. It was like you have to learn to like tower over your circumstances. I can't remember where I heard that. I
Yeah.
must follow up with that. But yeah, it's all about personal attitude, I think. And it took me a while. What am I 31 now? It took me a few years to kind of come around
Yeah.
to mature a bit to start thinking that way, I think.
Yeah, I find I'm very I suppose pessimistic is or negative is the word with this country as well, even though I love it in so many ways. And it's in reality we're gifted, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll even complain about the weather, but at least this it's not dangerous, right? There's no
Yeah.
tsunamis, there's no earthquakes, things like that. So I
Yeah.
think the grass is always greener on the other side as well. I always think, oh,
100%.
why are we going to Spain? Why aren't we going to Thailand? Like living here for a while. I was even talking about Australia last night, right? But at the end of the day, I know a big reason or pull to stay here is family as well, because we're in that process of kind of settling down, getting the mortgage. Kids will come along, and
Yeah.
hopefully, touch wood, and kind of follow that same route you've taken, essentially. So, yeah, I mean, there's that, right? But in regard to even housing in Ireland, how are you finding that situation?
Yeah. Just to kind of piggyback on that, we just Irish people just love moaning. If it's
Yeah.
raining, we're moaning it's raining, and then if it's sunny, it's too hot. It's like it's just part of our DNA. We just love moaning,
Yeah.
and yeah, you need to be able to kind of realize that and kind of poke a bit of fun on it as well. In regard to housing, yeah, so we're lucky enough to be living in an apartment now. So just the three of us. Just saving. Kind of the same story as everyone. Like just save as much as we can. We're going to probably need to get a new build because you get I can't remember the name of it. Is it like help not help to buy, but it's the scheme where the government owns like 30% of
Yeah.
your house. So
Yeah.
that's a massive chunk. So we're like we're probably I actually was speaking to the mortgage guy yesterday and he won't go near me until April next year
Yeah.
which I think is pretty okay. It's usually like 2 years,
Mm.
full years. And as I said, like from September to January, I made no money because I was just at home with Shade and that
Yeah.
was great. But then obviously the bills start piling up. So in January, say January to now, which is nearly a year, say, so it'll be a year and a half, just under a year and a half when they'll look at us for a mortgage. So
Yeah.
I'm happy enough with that, and we can give us a few months extra to save. But it's
Yeah.
kind of we're kind of getting into the mindset now of like going to a few houses that like we know we're not going to buy, but you want to get into that
Mm.
routine of like, but man, it's like I don't know if you've done this, but like you go visit a house and it's I don't know 300 grand just for example, on the Wednesday, and then you're like, okay, so right, fair enough. And then by the Friday, it's 360, and you're like,
Wow.
how are we supposed? So whatever you're saving, you need to actually add an extra 50 grand on that to be sure that you're going to get it
Ooh,
because
yeah.
it's a it's a tricky one.
Yeah. So I've had to go through a nightmare. Even today, I had to pay a nightmare amount of tax to make up because I didn't pay myself for a long time. I didn't need to due to savings from my 9 to 5, and I wanted to keep the money in
Mm,
the company. However, getting a mortgage doesn't help. Um,
mm,
so I had to pay myself basically a lump sum today to make up for the past year, okay, 2024, and they're going to average out. Uh, and bear in mind, I made 9K last year. That's what I paid myself. So that doesn't
yeah,
help. So they're going to average out the last 3 years, and it works out to we get a mortgage for about almost 300, right? Where most people seem to be in relative similar uh,
yeah,
price
yeah.
range. Now, based off that, okay, the deposit and so on, but if you get a new build and you buy it from, I think it's from the council or the government, essentially, they're fixed
Mm,
pricing. But if you go like trying to basically a bidding war. I've seen normal houses go for over 100K what they're asking. Like that's ridiculous.
yeah.
It's insane. So there's always people, even though like me and you we're doing fantastic within our business, there's always people richer. There's always people ready to put 100 cash down, no issue. Right. So we're kind
That's the
of
problem, though.
yeah.
It's like because yeah, sorry to cut across you, but
No,
there's
go
a,
ahead.
there's a housing estate up the road from us, and we were just same thing. We were like, right, we'll go for your house. We'll get into da da da, and then so that nice houses, whatever. They were like
Yeah.
400, whatever.
Yeah.
So then there was a new what do you call them? New phase. Then there was like five of them built, and they're like 5 bedroom semi-detached. No, sorry,
Mhm.
yeah, 5 bedroom detached. So they're a bit more bougie.
Yeah.
But I got the email about them, and it was like 5 bedroom semi-detached. Now this is kind of rural enough, like near
Mm.
Drogheda, in
Yeah.
so near enough a big town, kind of commuter belt to Dublin. 5 bedrooms starting at 775. And I
Insane.
almost emailed back being like, is that a typo? Starting at 3/4 of a million, over 3/4 of a million for it's just a house and a state house. Like nothing wrong with them, but like
Yeah.
insane,
Yeah. If
insane.
if you think about that, right? We're getting a 4x multiplier, 775. And let's say this is even between two people, because most people are mostly it's couples, right? Trying to buy the house. That means you need 193 grand earned a year. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not sure what way you're set up. Maybe we won't go too deep into it, but I have the company, and then I pay myself just a regular wage, like a very
Mm,
normal uh, wage, probably about the average in this country. So for me, and my girlfriend, she's an accountant, but it's a relatively normal job. Uh,
mm.
you can't get near that. And they don't seem to
No.
consider the company because it's either you buy with the company or you buy personal, right? Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
It,
the company would have a better chance, I guess, but it's not around long enough, so it's a catch, right?
yeah, it's but that's what I was talking to Nisha's dad about this, and he was like, it's just that the property developers, right? So they go in, they put this price up, and like you said, there's there is people who have that extra 100 grand, so
Yep.
they just need one person to buy that house, and then that's the price. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like there's 10, maybe 15,000 people looking for that house.
Yeah.
You just need one person to buy it
Yeah.
who has that cash, and there you go. That's the price. So that so you're kind of
Yeah.
you're scared if you do, you're scared if you don't. So I don't know what we're gonna do. We're gonna just keep eventually something we're looking at like renovating. I have this like dream in my head of like renovating like an old cottage or farm shed
Yeah.
into
Yeah. Yeah.
something, but
Yeah.
uh like that's me kind of being a bit. I know I said I was pessimistic before. I'm
Yeah.
probably optimistic there when I'm unrealistic. Um, but I don't know. I just have all these kind of yeah ideas, but then like yeah, in reality, it's like where am I getting this extra 150 grand from nowhere? Well,
Yeah,
that's the goal. That's the
but you're
goal.
growing. Like your business is only going to grow as well. Touch wood, right? And I think you're taking the right steps forward to put that into place and to get your time back to in order to grow it further in the months and years to come, right? I think you're in a definitely what you do is a growing space, without a doubt. Uh,
Mm,
with typical jobs compared to freelancing, it's so much easier to for a company or whoever needs your skills to get you in for a project or a monthly fee, things like that, rather than employ you for full time, give you the health benefits, give you this, that, days
yeah,
off, and so on. It's cheaper for the company, and they don't have to train you either. You pretty much know what to do.
yeah.
So there's a lot of
Mm,
benefits that way. And with your experience now, I've seen your work as well. It's good. It's nice, right? Um, so if anyone is interested in what you do, definitely hit them up. I'll put I'll mention this again at the end of it, but I'll put all the links
yeah.
to contact Sean anyway. Um, but to actually go back to reverse it completely and go back to a point you made about the jobs that you have got, because that was an interesting point that stuck in my head, was
Mm,
most people, I've seen a lot of people transition to looking for jobs on LinkedIn. I've also obviously the usual routes as well. What like in Ireland we've Indeed, I think, and just regular
yeah.
applying routes. But um, I'm gonna have to pause delivery at the door. One second.
No worries. No worries.
Resume like nothing happened. Okay, so yeah, with that, people, I might leave that in, but people are going these traditional routes to get jobs and applying. My question is, how do you actually find these companies that aren't big enough? Because straight away, I think of the blocker there, like that this company isn't going to see me. They're too big. They're
Mm,
making millions. How do you find someone that's making a reasonable amount but can see you?
that's a good question. I'll have to like retrospectively look back on that because that didn't cross my mind in the slightest when I was doing it. I think that was yeah, there was a bit of naivety to it that kind of probably worked in my favor, where I wasn't really thinking about figures or like KPIs or any of this kind of like that kind of like businessy kind of thing. I was just like, oh, a they have a cool website.
Mm,
Because I just loved like just curiosity killing the cat. I love like say every city I lived in, I've always like typed in top 10 design agencies. And then I'll just make a list. I'd be like, oh, that's a cool website. I'll follow them
mm,
on Instagram. Oh, that's a cool website. I'll follow them on Instagram. Oh, their case studies are cool. Like it's pure just like visual, like that's cool. And then they kind of like build and build over the like I've been following a design studio for years. Some people in Ireland might know them. They're called Bold Studios.
yeah.
Um, and like I have got such a weird connection to them. Like I love them, but like they don't know who I am. I don't know who they are. But they're just their brand has kind of just sucked me in, and like eventually someday I'd love to work with them, work for them. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it's just that kind of just searching out what you like and just kind of making a list of it. Like I still have lists on my old laptop from years ago of like 20 places I want to work in Melbourne, and then luckily enough, one of the ones I contacted, um, I ended up working there. So it's I know it is a pretty hot topic these days, but like authenticity as well. Like you just need to be, as I said, like if you're contacting a business owner who like design agencies, excuse me, aren't usually like 200-300 people or like massive companies. They're usually like maybe 20, 25, 30 kind of thing. So you can easily find out who the top dog is in there or who you should be speaking to. You could I've guessed emails before as well where like I couldn't find their email, so I've gone name@company.com or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
worked. A lot of them haven't worked. So
Yeah.
but if you put in like a little bit of effort and a lot of authenticity, that can get you so much further than you probably realize, and definitely further than I realized back then. So I thought I was just like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, again, just goes back to that. That's a cool website. I'm
Yeah.
going to take a note of that. That's another tip. Take. I feel like another tip, but just stuff that's like
Yeah.
helped me in the past is like write everything down. Get yourself like a Notion board and just leave links in it. And you might not look at them for like 2 years or whatever, but you'll eventually come back around and be like, oh, I kind of remember scribbling something down there, and then that might trigger something. Um, yeah, again, it's just kind of putting yourself out there a little bit, which isn't the
Yeah.
easiest thing to do in the world. Like, but if it's something I learned this year, the so you kind of have to you only get out of what you put into it to a certain
Yeah.
extent. And like I've started, I think I chatted to you briefly about this before. I've a huge fear of public speaking. So like in what just over a month of a best man speech for my best mate at his wedding. So like I started doing classes in February about like public speaking and stuff like that, and like hated it. Like I was walking in there like trembling at the thought of someone else getting up to speak, not me. So that's how scared I was. So like it just applies to everything. Like if you just do stuff that are uncomfortable, like I never would have pictured myself on a podcast like this at all. Um, you just have to put yourself out there, and you're not gonna win every time. But like if you
Yeah.
fail, you kind of just you learn, you get back up. Like it's not the end of the world. Um, so yeah, with those kind of things, with looking for jobs, um, to go back to the original point there, yeah, just kind of find stuff that you like and follow it,
Yeah.
and just like people love being complimented on their stuff as well. Like
Yeah.
so, if you got a cold DM from someone being like, oh, I actually really like your company, like you're straight away, you're like, oh, thank you very much. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a good
For
tactic.
sure. Yeah, first point there is I think you'll smash that speech. You've no issue speaking at all. I know it's completely different, say just one to one rather than an online than in front of
Yeah.
however amount of people they have there. But to the second point, or the second thing I want to mention is, uh, I suppose you have a skill set and you've built a skill set over the past whatever amount of years, okay? And you enjoy it, correct? You
Oh, I
enjoy what
love
you
it.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
something that a lot of people don't do is they work shitty jobs that they don't enjoy. And that's whatever about a 9 to 5. Most people work a 9 to 5, but if at least you can just enjoy it a little bit, it makes it 10 times easier. However, you've gone to the other extent or extreme, whatever you want to call it, and you've been basically out of a job, technically out of a 9 to 5, with almost a year now, right? How has that transition been for you? And what are the benefits? What are the cons as well? What are the
Mm.
bad sides of it?
Um, so again, starting with the pessimism, the cons are for me would be one of the big one is it's probably social aspect of it. Because there was times where um, we live pretty close to a gym, so I go to the gym, but I'd be there by myself or whatever. So that's that. And then I'd come back in here, and I wasn't in your course or whatever, so I would have no calls during the week. A lot of my work was ongoing, so I literally wouldn't actually speak to anyone,
Hmm.
like face to face or over the screen. So I was like, again, it comes back to our original point at the start. Like, everyone has problems. It's about how you deal with them. So I kind of like, again, thinking more kind of calculative, if that's the word.
Yeah.
Um, of right, I like to go and do a bit of exercise, but it'd be good if I could speak to someone there. So then I joined a different gym that does classes. There you go, that's that box hit. Then I was like, right, I know nothing about the marketing, self-marketing, or like generating lead side of things. Um, and then your course popped up. So I was like, right, there, I've got X amount of calls during the week. There's a whole gang of people behind them in the same kind of rowing the boat in the same direction as well. So I was like, right, there's that box tick as
Mm.
well. So um, that would have been one of the biggest ones is just the social side of it. And you can kind of get a little bit lonely. The next con would be probably the, and this is a little bit kind of, I don't know, to my detriment. Like, I'm lucky enough to, it's been going okay so far,
Mhm.
but I'm still like, this the uncertainty of like, oh, because the work has like just kept coming in, but in my head, I'm like, oh, well, that's going to stop at some point. I can't really enjoy the success because I'm worried about the future because I haven't got like a
Yeah.
contract signed where like, right, you've got an ongoing job. So that would be the other one. But you learn to deal with that. But they'd be the two biggest ones. But like on the plus side, it's just night and day with like so sometimes you can get bogged down in a job and you're like, that's it. Whereas with freelance, like when you do a job, it's over and then you move on to the next one. And it's like starting fresh and then whatever processes is, or like as you're kind of going, you're learning what you're doing wrong. Like the way I do things is a million times different than the way I did it in January, just because like obviously you learn on the job and you get better. So like each job you start is a fresh start. So
Mm.
each client you get is actually getting a better end product than they would have if they came to
Right.
you earlier. So you're just getting better and better, and you can see that progression in yourself. Um, so that's actually really one that I didn't expect that I found really helpful. Um, then obviously the time management. I haven't having a young kid. I tip my hat to anyone who has like so in our part of Ireland, if I was to get a job in house, it would probably be in Dublin, which would be I don't know. My dad did it for like 25 years. It would be like an hour and a half to 2 hours in the morning in the car, stuck in traffic. Without traffic, you can get up in 40 minutes. With traffic, 2 hours. And same again in the evening, Monday to Friday. Whereas in the mornings now, I could kind of, we get up, we have a breakfast, we have like a nice chilled breakfast. We go, I can drop my little fellow over to crash at whatever time, really.
Mm. Yeah.
And I can pick him up. I'll be going straight over for him now after this call. And it means just like I could spend quality time with him without having to spend 4 hours a day in a car. I know obviously it's kind of hybrid working and stuff like now, but even just the flexibility, like he has a doctor appointment tomorrow, it's just a checkup. So Niche doesn't have to take days off school for
Yeah.
she's a primary school teacher. Um she doesn't have to take days off school. So time's way more valuable than your income. Obviously the income's important, but it's what you do with your time then that'll obviously drive that. But it's it's a work in progress for me. My work life balance, as you know yourself, is not great, but I do enjoy it. So it's not like a heavy burden, you know. But I do need to kind of step away from the laptop a little bit more. Um, but yeah, again, as I said, it's a work in progress. So yeah, time and flexibility, and um, just in my parents, like they're both retired now, so I can go for lunch with them tomorrow, and they get to hang out with Shay, and yeah, man, it's all very wholesome,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like it's it's just being your own boss. I'm just after thinking of another con there. Probably it's the discipline side of it. You do need to kind of put set structures or set boundaries for yourself, and um
Yeah.
yeah, and stick to them because the sooner you do that, the just the better everything will be. It's like the foundations of everything. Like if you're kind of not really setting a structure and you're kind of I've got really good at like planning out exactly what my day is going to look like
Yeah.
tomorrow work wise, and um I've actually got the whiteboard thing there. Like I'm a very kind of visual person, so
Yeah.
I have Monday and all them kind of online work planning tools or whatever. Like they're good, but I'll show you here. I have it. I like kind of going analog, old school with
Ah,
the
nice. That's
the
cool.
board. So that's what my week looks like. Now that chops and changes
I was just going to ask. Yeah, yeah,
a lot, but I enjoyed it. I kind of gamified it where you move things across and rub things out.
yeah,
Um, that that's a new enough addition, but honestly, don't want to underestimate how game changing that has been
yeah.
to my structure and just getting work done. And yeah, and then like getting out of the house. So I'll work outside the house. I go in to town and work in the library like 2 days a week and stuff like that. And it's yeah, like anyone listening to this that's kind of thinking about it, I'd wholeheartedly recommend it. If it's something you want to do and you love and you feel like you feel that it's hard, you know yourself. It's
Yeah.
hard in parts and there's a lot of stress, extra stress, and like it's not going to work immediately. You do need to kind of keep like as I said to you, I've got time on my side now, so the way we're working together is like marginal gains and building a kind of strong foundation for hopefully for until I retire. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I think maybe the biggest pros and cons I have. What about you? What did you be similar or
Interesting.
what do you think?
Very, very similar. I've realized that I used to be mad about money. Like I just wanted
Mm,
money. That literally, right? However, when I got to a point where now I'm not rich by any means, but I'm comfortable, right?
mm,
And I don't need to, if I stop working out, I wouldn't need to work for years. Like that's the position I'm in. I'm very, very lucky to be in that within 2 years of having my own business. So based off that, and I think when you do get more comfortable with your finances, you start realizing that it's not all about the money. And I much more value, I'm outsourcing so much more. We spoke about this, but I'm
yeah,
outsourcing so much more over the past months to get my time back. And with that time, I'm doing things that I didn't previously have time for. Even simple things like going for walks in the evening with my girlfriend, playing a bit of hurling,
yeah, yeah.
going running, like just simple things that really weren't possible a year ago, to be honest, for me. And in
Yeah.
the first 6 months of my journey, I really, really sacrificed a lot of that and relationships, whether it be friends, girlfriend, mother, everything. I really pushed all that aside to build a business.
Mm,
And I think that's okay for a short period of time. But 6 months is the most any of it would have lasted. Like it was going
yeah.
downhill essentially, until I was able to buy back my time, I suppose, and schedule. And really, I suppose once you leave your 9 to 5, you have more time. The worst part is probably building in the initial phases. That's the hardest part. But there's always issues, right? And I don't want to solely talk about just the issues of it, but um, you question a lot. Uh, is this the way forward? Is this going to be stable? Like we say that hopefully we can do this till we retire. I'll be
Mm.
honest with you, I don't think we will be. I think we have to
No, something else
change.
will come
I
along.
know
Yeah,
your head will explode now, but
yeah.
I think we will have to adapt, and I think that's
Mm,
normal. What worked 20 years ago does not work now,
mm,
and it's going to be the same going forward, in my opinion. So, and that's fine. We just have to adapt to it at times, and we'll continue to be successful. I believe that. But I mean, time is definitely the biggest. Like I said, I've go visit my grandparents for a few hours every single Wednesday. Like a
yeah,
Wednesday is everyone else
yeah.
that I used to work with, they're still out in the cold and the rain. Like you don't have those opportunities when you have a job. So I think
Mm,
things like that make you realize, especially as you know, families getting older, things like that, make you
yeah, yeah.
realize that the time is more important. And people starting out might not realize that. And
Mm,
the money might be the one of the drivers and the goals, but it'll change. It'll change once you feel a bit more comfortable. As for the cons, I've never felt so much stress in my life at times. I've
Yeah.
very difficult night sleeps, many
Mm,
nights over. There has been times when I've done 16, 18-hour working days. But
hmm.
it, the pros outweigh that completely. Would you agree with what I say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to touch on a point you started that with about not wanting to talk about the kind of challenges or whatever too much, but I think that's more important than the the kind of, oh, it's great, yeah, I get up in the morning, I work for 2 hours, and then I go to the beach for the day. Like it's a bit like disingenuous, and it's a bit
Yeah.
kind of like, oh yeah, do this, get rich quick thing. And like it is all a load of shite if you look at it from that point of view, where it's like that's the tip of the iceberg. But there is like a lot of stuff that needs to be done to get to that point. That point is achievable,
Mm.
absolutely, but it is a lot of hard work, and it's as you said, there's a lot of stressful days, a lot of long days, and there's a lot of like I'd be the worst person for like self doubt and like questioning myself and stuff like that. And like, yeah, that stuff seeps in
Mm.
daily, even, and you just have to kind of take this. And I think we're really kind of making it kind of all full circle, but like doing stuff like going for a walk or like talking to your grandparents or like not being like constantly locked in online
Yeah.
is good for your like soul and good for like your just overall opinion of the world. So when the self doubt and all that kind of stuff inevitably does come, you're
Yeah.
able to deal with it because it's not all consuming. You're like, all right, I'm gonna go for a walk. And like sometimes it is just as simple as that. You know what I mean? Like a problem, like yeah, just going for a walk and having a chat. You ever like walk with someone while or having a chat while you're walking? It's like I think it's like scientifically proven to be like people open up more, especially men like
Really.
open up more and kind of share more when you're walking like side by side with someone,
Yeah. Yeah.
as opposed to like sitting down at a table and then it's a bit weird and you're like whatever. Like sometimes it is like I remember having like this. I'm terrible at like creating these like fake uh deadlines or fake like pressure in my head where I'm
Mm.
like, oh, this person is like sitting by the phone waiting or sitting by their computer waiting for my email to have this work done when it's like that's not true.
Yeah.
And like I remember recently I built all this stuff up in my head, and then the guy I actually thought I had to do the work for, we just went for a walk and like he's like, oh no, it's fine. Like, and then all of a sudden it's just alleviated, and then life isn't on top of you as much as you think it is. And yeah, you do. It is important. And again, I need to take my own advice as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying I do this every day, or I'm like, but like, yeah, do take the opportunities to do like real life stuff, as in like I don't know, go to the cinema with your friend or your granny or whatever you want to do. Like it's not all about online and building a business, but building a business you have to be your best self, and you're not your
Yeah.
best self if you're just working yourself into a ground. Actually, I think so, I remember I can't remember his name is Dan something on Twitter asked that kind of question like what is the best bit of advice you've learned over your freelance career. For me personally, it was just I learned to when I needed to just take a break, because if you're doing a project and you're pumping 7 hours into it, but you got tired after two, those 5 hours there are like pointless. They're just wasted hours because you're not actually doing anything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Take a break, go for a walk, get a cup of tea, cup of coffee,
Yeah.
and then go back, recharge. And that's really hard to do because you think, oh, I need to be working, I need to da da da. When actually the work's kind of shit because you're tired. So just take a break
Yeah.
and then go back to it. The world's going to keep on spinning for that half an hour. The world's going to keep going. It's
Yeah.
not that big of a deal. And that's easier said than done. I know I know more than anyone. Uh, so yeah, look, we're all works in progress for sure.
Yeah. No, you make great points. Absolutely. And I took note there of the best piece of advice you've ever got. I'm gonna tweet that. I'm gonna see what people say,
Yeah.
and see what was it. Dan Cole, maybe
No, his name is
someone
I
else.
actually can tell. It's Dan Purdy, I think it is.
Ah, okay. Well, he's got a shout out. Let's go. Um,
Yeah.
but Yeah, look, there's absolutely a lot of valid points there, and I completely agree with everything you're saying, to be honest. And I realize that the simple things are what I actually enjoy the most. That's it. I'm not a fan of.
Mm.
By the way, you should watch the group call from this morning. I put it in. It was, if you haven't already,
I'm
basically
10
about
minutes into it. Yeah.
amazing. We go through Dan asks a question, we go through a schedule, everything. It's very good. Um, but
Mm.
uh, I think what was I saying? Um,
The simple things.
basic, yeah, basically, it is those simple things, and I'm not a fan of the monk mode, all this. It's just it's not me. I think you need to have the time off. I think you need to. You can't be locked in 12 hours a day for the next 2 months. You just can't. It's not good in my opinion,
No.
and I think you'll burn out. So there's I think having short bursts, that's what works for me. A burst, take time off, a burst, that's for me, right? Because if I don't not treat myself, and I feel like that's the wrong way of putting it, but have my own time, it's I don't feel myself. And as you said, you need to be, or you can't be yourself all the time, but you need to be almost your best self to build a business, right? So, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's that point. But um, on a point you made in the beginning about you being in Canada, Australia, Ireland, what are the major differences between them? Just out of my own curiosity, and yeah, yeah, even just that point, I'm curious.
The obvious answer is Canada's very cold,
Yeah,
Australia's very
yeah,
hot, and Ireland's kind of in the middle.
yeah,
Um, the so Toronto is it was like our first big city we went to, and it's great. Uh, but it gets to like I think I seen the other way like it's like minus 20 or whatever, but it was like it feels like minus 30 or something with the wind
yeah,
chill.
yeah,
So like the winters in Toronto are rough, but it's like what's that saying? It's like there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing or something like that. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like people are well adapted to it. So um Canada's great. Oh, Vancouver is like I would move there in a heartbeat. It is like the most beautiful city I've ever been in, just for like the scenery. So it's
yeah.
basically just like on the water. There's a city here, massive mountain range there, so you get the best of both worlds. Um, they do a mad thing with happy hours where they're staggered. So it's like from 3 to 4 in one
Ah,
bar, 4 to 5 and 6 to 7, blah blah blah. So
behind the bar.
yeah, so that's good. Yeah, yeah. But sorry to go back to the question. They're not really like the big cities aren't that different. It's all about like who you meet and how kind of. I feel like Irish people we tend to go abroad and then only hang around with Irish people.
Irish people,
So
yeah.
like yeah, and then they talk about how great back home is, and you're like
Yeah,
that just defeats, in my personal opinion, that defeats the point of moving abroad. So,
yeah,
um, when we went, we kind of jumped through our 2 feet in, and we were lucky enough to make lots of friends that we're still in contact today, and that's nearly we were in Canada nearly 10 years ago. So,
wow.
it was it was great. Yeah, but I think I don't know. Living in all those places just made me realize how like everyone's pretty similar. We're all pretty like everyone just wants to kind of get on and have fun during the day and like have a bit of I don't know, like yeah, just a bit of fun, a bit of happiness and um yeah, they're all similar enough. Obviously different. Australians are the exact same as Irish people. Just
Yeah,
they have nice hair and they're tanned. That's it. Like we're the same sense of humor, same
yeah.
ish culture. Um
I mean,
yeah,
half of
so
Ireland
anyone
is
thinking
is
it.
over there.
Oh man, I got so good at like me and Nisha be walking down the street. I got so good at like picking out people from the back of their head from about like 25 yards away. I was like, he's Irish,
You
she's
know.
definitely Irish.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
you'd walk by and just hear them shouting on about something.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
I was right. But yeah, no, that's it. I think we're pretty well received everywhere, like
Yeah.
to a certain degree where we go, and that's probably one of my proudest things about being Irish, like where people kind of look at you and they kind of want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And that works out well for a lot of people because yeah, we're small island off the coast, but it's we've reached. I'd love to know the numbers of like actual, say, first, second generation people outside of Ireland. I'd say it
I
would rival
yeah,
anywhere.
I saw something recently. Now I definitely can't quote the figures, but
Yeah,
there's more Irish in America than
yeah.
there is in Ireland, which
I'd
is
well believe it. Yeah,
insane. Insane. I
yeah,
can't remember how much. I think it's like a couple of million more,
yeah. I
which
actually
is mad.
forgot to say I lived in Boston as well,
Ah,
and that uh, yeah, I'd say most of Boston is Irish. I remember getting into a bit of trouble, not trouble, but like I remember walking through a part of Boston. I think it was like South Boston or whatever, and I remember some guy kind of like he was probably trying to like rob me. And I remember kind of like he didn't do it that quickly, like he
yeah,
was kind of like warming me up, but he was doing pretty aggressive, whatever. And then I started being like, oh, look, actually, I remember I was wearing a Hollister. Remember the Hollister t-shirts were like
yes,
the real
yeah,
like parrot the fella surfing and shit like that. And I remember he was like slagging me for that. And then when I started talking, he obviously heard my accent. And then another guy like came out of fucking nowhere, out of the shadows, and was like, "Hey, leave him alone." He was fully like just like I'm ready to die for this guy because he's
yeah.
Irish. I was like, whoa.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a great city as well. It gets pretty cold there as well. But yeah, man, it's a nice kind of I don't know what the word is, legacy or
Yeah,
nice reputation that we have to kind of we're able to kind of go and make friends wherever we go.
yeah.
But yeah, if anyone's thinking about going to Vancouver, Toronto, or Melbourne or Boston, go to Vancouver or Melbourne. The
Hmm.
two of them, or the four of them, I
Interesting.
should say.
I've seen
Yeah,
Vancouver's like far west, right? It's as far away as possible, isn't it?
yeah. I think my geography is shocking, but I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it
No,
is.
I,
Toronto's east coast. It's pretty close
yeah,
to New York, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
True, true, true. I've seen pictures just obviously online of Vancouver, and it looks unbelievable. It's just so far away as well.
Oh man, even go for a holiday. There's a place called Banff. You've definitely seen pictures of it.
Yeah,
That is my favorite place in the world. I think me and Nisha stayed there. We were supposed to stay there for like 2 days, and we ended up
yeah.
just staying for like 2.5 weeks because we
Wow.
just kept. It's so small, but it's just like it looks fake in
Yeah,
pictures, but I can guarantee you the pictures are not fake. It's incredible.
yeah. On
Yeah,
the
so definitely.
on that, sorry to cut you off, on that Irish point as
Yeah,
well, it's even when I go on holidays in Europe, and I have a little story about Thailand as well, but they all ask, well, from my experience, they all ask, oh, English. I'm like, no, Irish. And then they're like, hey, they're delighted, right? It's like, thank God. Um,
yeah.
and funny enough, even in Thailand, I had people calling me a potato. I was like, okay, so you even know about it, right?
Yeah, it's
Insane,
funny, isn't it?
insane.
It,
Um,
isn't it crazy that there's an Irish bar in every like if you
Mad.
go to the deepest
Yeah,
like part of Africa, there'll be an Irish bar
yeah.
in the middle of the town somewhere. It's crazy.
Because
It's
I was driving through France a week or two ago, and we were going through some we went to countryside on purpose to see the small villages, and we were
yeah.
in a small one, and there was I can't remember the name, but it was in the middle of nowhere, and I just see this Irish pub. I'm like, what? Why would you even come here? Like,
Yeah,
it's mad. We're everywhere for sure,
yeah.
but yeah, man. Um, for people that want to find you and contact you, if you want to give a brief rundown of what you do and where they can kind of find you, essentially.
Yeah, so my website is fromsean.com. So it's FROM hyphen SEAN.com. So that's my portfolio. That took me, that's the one thing, where graphic designers, it's the old trope where it's like they can design for everyone else, but not for themselves. So that is not finished. I don't think it will ever be finished.
Yeah.
It's up there and it's done to a certain extent. So you can go there, and then I'm on Twitter and Instagram. If you just type in Sean Finlay, SEAN FINLAY. And then so the Instagram's more for like I do these kind of like portrait stencily kind of things. So you can have a look at them over there. Then the Twitter is kind of getting more focused to towards work wise. I'm trying to get build up a little bit of a following there. So yeah, if anyone wants to go on and I don't know if anyone found this like remotely interesting or they have any questions for me, give me a shout. I'm all ears. But yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity. It's one thing I can tick off my list now for sure.
Absolutely. We might have to do part two. Um, but yeah,
All
no,
right. I'll have to prep for that one.
no, for in fairness, you've been doing a good job on Twitter as well. It's especially in the last couple of days, I think there's been nice growth based off the kind of
Yeah,
strategies that we're working on, which is brilliant to see. And it's for the long term as well, right? To have that security. So I'm looking forward to your future to see what's ahead for you. I think it's only growth, to be honest, from what I see. And you do fantastic work. So I'll put the links and your socials and all that in the description for YouTube and maybe in the comments for Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and we'll go from there. So Sean, thanks for coming on, man. It's been a
yeah,
pleasure. We'll talk again soon.
yeah. Likewise. Cheers, bud. Thank you. Bye bye.